What's going on, people? Fame Entertainment from LV1Gaming.com. And thank you guys for rocking with me once again for 15 minutes of fame. Today, I have a guest with me today that I absolutely fell in love with his content the minute I heard it, right? Great visuals, great audio. The Melodic Punk. What's going on, brother?
What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me on for this video. I'm the Melodic Punk. I do content on YouTube. I stream on Twitch at Just Melodic Punk. And besides content creation, I also do music as well.
Hey, man, and he be with those troubleshooters as well, man. You guys rock with us. You guys know Eric in the game. He with them troubleshooters, so you know he is a man on those sticks. With that being said, cue the music.
For 15 minutes of fame, I can settle for being ordinary, but nobody remembers the ordinary. It's the ones who live forever. Trendsetters. Cause not everybody can be trendsetters. It's the only way I gotta be.
Alright, we are back. The Melodic Punk has 15 minutes on the fame. Sir, the clock begins now.
When I think of favorite franchises, two come in mind. Number 2 being Star Wars, and number 1 being The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda has been my favorite gaming franchise since I was 4 years old. Around 4, going to my grandparents' house, my grandmother had a Nintendo 64 with Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Banjo-Kazooie, all the classics that were on that system. She got that system around the time she was fighting breast cancer, and during her recovery, my family chipped in and got her a system just so she had something to do while recovering. And with my own eyes, I saw my own grandmother beat Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And my cousins and I had the best memories playing that system. And while I was a Mario fan growing up, Zelda grew on me over time. Seeing the vast world of Hyrule Field, going to Lon Lon Ranch to save Epona, who would become your best friend along the way as you travel from dungeon to dungeon, is the most memorable experience. And yes, it does look a bit dated, but there's no doubt in my mind why that game is one of the best games of all time. But going through with my history, I started with Ocarina of Time. Around the time I got my GameCube, Wind Waker was about to come out, and that was the first Zelda game that my brother and I got for ourselves. And going through Wind Waker, you really kind of understand the freedom that Zelda has. Even like as a younger gamer going into Zelda, Wind Waker with the vast ocean, the great ocean that you sailed across with the King of the Red Lions, you really got a sense of adventure and exploration. And you got to go through different dungeons such as the Forsaken Fortress, where you have to play the game like Metal Gear Solid to get your sword back, or going to Dragon Roost Island to meet characters like Melody, and eventually go to find the Master Sword that's been sunken under a Hyrule castle underneath the ocean, and really just relive the legend that the Ocarina of Time Link had left behind. Now, besides Wind Waker, Zelda and I didn't really have much of a connected history until I think after Skyward Sword. The 2D Zelda games on Game Boy, I was playing a lot of other games on Game Boy and Nintendo DS at the time just because I was young and all that stuff, and you kind of just get whatever you can get. Skyward Sword was the one that came out on the Wii. I got that on launch day with the gold Wii remote, which I wish I still had. And I was having a fun time. It was really like the first story that you get to hear about the development of the Master Sword, and understanding like where everything kind of all began. And Twilight Princess, I forgot to mention, I got with my Wii when we got it in 2007. And while that was a great game, it's not really my favorite 3D Zelda. The art style is beautiful. The motion controls were cool coming in for the first time. But Skyward Sword had that story, and it had the motion controls that were really one-to-one with your motion swings. And with understanding like the development of the Master Sword and learning how Zelda would become the princess later on in games, the founding of Hyrule underneath the sky, and of course you hear about the Curse of Demise, which eventually will explain why Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf are the three most iconic characters in that franchise. You got the Triforce of Power, the Triforce of Wisdom, the Triforce of Courage. Not only does this represent the three main characters of the franchise, but I also think it does a good job of explaining the game design. Because with Courage, that's you going out into the open world and really just exploring, just having the courage to go out on your own and explore this vast world. The Wisdom comes from the puzzle solving, and the Power comes from the enemies that you fight later on in the game. Now, with going with the Wii, the Virtual Console is one of the best things I've ever got to experience. Not only because I got to replay games like Ocarina of Time again, but I got to play Zelda on NES, and I got to play Link to the Past. And I beat Zelda NES, granted, you do need a map and a guide for that game, just because of how non-linear that game is. And then I made it a point to myself, A Link to the Past has got to be a game I 100%ed. So during high school, I 100%ed A Link to the Past the first time, and I see why it's regarded as one of the best Zelda games ever made. Now, Zelda 2, I can see why that's the black sheep of the franchise. I played that on Game Boy Advance. My grandma, who beat Ocarina, gifted me that game and the 4 Swords on GBA that had the remake to A Link to the Past. And Zelda 2 is hard. It was like the first time I was like, wait, this is a Zelda game? And that was the one home console Zelda I'd never got to come around and beat, because I want to beat that game without any save states. And then with A Link to the Past, I always preferred the Super Nintendo version, just because you heard young Link, yell 1,000 times every time he swung the sword. Now, I did mention that Majora's Mask was one of the games that my grandmother had on N64, but we all liked that game because of all the items and stuff that you got with all the masks and everything. But I never really sat down and played through that game until my freshman year of high school, when I ran into a good friend named Michael. He was telling me, we were talking about Zelda, because once we figured out that both of us are big Nintendo fans, we started talking about Zelda. And then he eventually brought up Majora's Mask and whether or not I've beaten it. He kind of showed me the ropes, showed me what I needed to do, like Song of Double Time, the reverse Song of Time, and really showed me how to balance out the game a little bit more. Excuse me. So, played that on the original system, and I kind of realized how much I liked Majora's Mask a lot more in terms of story, in terms of side quest content. Yeah, it's not the best when it comes to a mainline Zelda, but I connected a lot more with helping people in that game, especially with the Anju Cafe side quest, where you literally have the entire 3-day cycle to reunite a couple so they can, honor their marriage before their last 5 minutes of life. And that's something that had a huge impact on me while I was playing through the side content of that game. And then right before you go to Stone Tower Temple, you see a mummified dad of a little girl, and little girl is scared, and you play the Song of Healing, and you see the impact that you have in that world. And the Song of Healing is one of those tracks that kind of gives you goosebumps to this day. And with going into middle school, once I really gotten into learning guitar and just really getting into the music side of things, Zelda was one of the things I constantly think about, because some of those Zelda games, music is a huge theme in those games. Ocarina of Time, you literally had an instrument that could allow you to travel to different parts of the land, allow you to unlock doors. And of course in that game, and of course in Majora's Mask, it allows you to basically save yourself and save the world, because you have to play that to reverse time again, and all that stuff. And to me, I never got to see the Zelda Symphony live, but I do have the 25th anniversary CD that came with Skyward Sword somewhere around my house. And of course, I have a physical copy of the Twilight Princess HD soundtrack
nice.
that came with the special edition for this game. The Wolf Link amiibo I don't have, because I don't really collect amiibo like that. But this is something I still have wrapped. Anytime I want to listen to it, the internet exists, so you can go online. So this I still have lying around.
Is that the Master Sword behind you?
Yes, the Master Sword is right behind me.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if I want to move the camera or pick it up, but
that's
I have
beautiful.
The Highland Shield, which I got on a trip to Gatlinburg after I graduated high school. And then the Master Sword my brother's wife actually got me. And that was one of the most meaningful gifts I've ever got, because, I mentioned how big of a Zelda fan I was, and it was a really cool gift that I got. And then right behind me, I have a Triforce light that Crypto137 is holding.
obviously Zelda is very important to you, and that's absolutely amazing. For someone who has never really dove into the franchise, is there a game in particular you would tell someone to start at?
Right from the beginning, I would probably say Ocarina of Time might be the best. It's the most balanced when it comes to linearity, while also figuring out like the exploration of the game as well. Wind Waker's really good for that as well, because with Ocarina of Time, you can get to the first dungeon within like the first 10-15 minutes of the game. And the one that's probably like it's the easier game, but it does have a long shot of getting started as Twilight Princess. But if I had to recommend a 3D game, it would probably be Ocarina of Time. And if I had to recommend a 2D game, it would be A Link Between Worlds, which to me is my favorite 2D Zelda game currently.
And be honest, on a scale from 1 to 15, how excited are you for Breath of the Wild 2?
16. I have a story with Breath of the Wild. So when the Wii U came out, of course, they released the Zelda Wind Waker HD bundle.
Yes.
Which I was not excited for Wii U until I saw that we were getting a new Zelda and that one of my favorite Zeldas was getting remade. I still have the tablet right here. So, when we started hearing word about Zelda on Wii U being non-linear and open world, I was talking to all my friends. I was like, dude, this game is going to be awesome. It's going to be like Skyrim, but with Legend of Zelda in it. It's going to be amazing. E3 2015, we see like, what, a 2-minute clip of what it's going to look like. Hyped as all get out. Delay after delay after delay. We eventually see that it's coming to Nintendo Switch, which is cool because then, you know, it's a handheld and something that you can play on the TV. I can take it with me to college. It's gonna be awesome. The week before Breath of the Wild and the Switch came out, my grandfather on my mom's side of the family passed away.
Sorry to hear
that. No worries. During that time, my mom was going through it. I was going through it because I was really close to him along with my brother. And the only thing I just remembered is like, you know, it sucks right now. It's a bad day right now. It's a rough week going to the funeral, but I know Friday I'm going to be able to escape what I'm feeling right now and just go into the world of Hyrule. So when the UPS man dropped off my Switch on that Friday night, because I went to the midnight release just to pick up my copy of the game and talk to everybody and all that stuff. But as soon as I set up my Switch and started Breath of the Wild, you run out of the Shrine of Resurrection and you see the open field. I'm gonna sound lame for this, but I almost shed a tear from my eye because
ain't it the lame about that, baby? Tell that to the world. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Like, cause finally, like the game that I've been talking about all high school is finally here. It's in my hand, and you really see how big the world is. And I played like 10 hours straight that day. I was enjoying myself. This is what gaming is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about escaping the real world and just. It's the escapism, getting away from all the crappy stuff that we face in reality and just getting immersed into stories and gameplay and just having fun. And for a while, Breath of the Wild was one of my favorite games of all time. I did all the shrines, I did all the side quests. I didn't do all the Korok seeds because 999 is just too much for all that stuff. Or I think it was just 900 Korok seeds. Anyway, that's just way too much.
It's a lot.
And doing all the shrines, this got me really excited. And spoilers for those watching, if you haven't beaten Breath of the Wild yet, which the game is 5 years old, I don't know what you're doing. For beating the entirety of Breath of the Wild, you don't mind if I show this, right?
Oh no, go right on ahead. You already said spoilers, so they be okay.
Yeah, you get this right here, which is the Armor of the Wild set. Which, if you don't know, it's the green tunic that's made specifically for Breath of the Wild. So, you know. For a long time we asked things like, is Link gonna have the green tunic? And aside from all the amiibos and stuff you can use, like this game has its own native green tunic. So and once you upgrade that fully, it becomes the most powerful armor set in the game. And to me, that was like one of the coolest aspects about that. And I plan to stream the master mode of Breath of the Wild right before the next game comes out.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry, with 2 minutes left, I want to go to the melodic pump. I want to ask you, if someone sees this and they say, this man is super knowledgeable about Zelda, I love Zelda, I want to learn more about his content, about him. If they go to your channel, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, which everything about Melodic Punk will be in the description down below, What is one thing you want people to take from you and your content?
Somebody who's passionate about gaming, whether it be the rants or just talking about gaming general topics. Maybe something about music along the way, good or bad. I'm not 100% sure, because melodic punk on Twitch is kind of goofy and just is all about having fun. But when you see melodic on Backlog Podcast from Eric Cuts for the Win and Dren Pixeled, you see somebody who's very passionate and who likes to have a good conversation. Hanging out with people in certain discords and just talking about gaming, it becomes like, it's like making your own connections. It's like making friends over the internet, which anybody watching this, don't be ashamed to ever like talk to people online, because I met some of the coolest people online doing all this stuff.
That's what's up, man. So before we go, I gotta ask you this, as someone who's a big fan of Zelda, how many times have you had people come up to you and believe that, not knowingly, but they believe that Zelda and Link are the same person?
I had to correct him every single time. Even my own relatives. They'll be like, "Oh, he looks like Zelda." I'm like, "Zelda's the princess. You mean Link?" Which is another good thing Breath of the Wild brought up. They're just like, we're going to call him Link. Screw renaming him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
His name is Link.
I think that's one of the I think it's one of the more common misconceptions that gamers like, why that's not Zelda. That's Link. That's Link. And as someone who is as passionate about it as you, I know it has to drive you nuts.
Yeah, it does. Like, even with other friends that I know who like Zelda as much as I do, we talk about it, how much it just takes us off from time to time. But you get used to it after a while.
So you're streaming. So what is the next thing you're going to be streaming? I'm going to have your Twitch. What's the next game you think you'll be streaming on your channel?
So depending on how everything goes, this Friday I should be streaming. I should be starting Master Mode for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Typically my games are Halo the Master Chief Collection and Halo Infinite, just because I love those games multiplayer. But I plan on doing Breath of the Wild on Master Mode. And then I'm not really being request, but I think some people want to see me play Elden Ring as soon as it comes out, just because of the open world aspect and all that. So I'm going to give that a shot. And then Tunic, I'm either going to post stuff on my channel about it, or I might see about streaming it. But the next stream should be Zelda related.
Last question. So you had games like that's coming out like Tunic, like Death Door. Do those scratch your Zelda itch at all?
It's funny you're saying that, because I just recently got back into Death's Door, and one of the cool conversations I have with people like Erica is we talk about the similarities between Zelda and Dark Souls, because there's a lot of elements of Dark Souls in that game where you're going and you're grinding and you're leveling up certain perks on your character, and then you have the whole exploration and the puzzle solving aspect about Zelda that kind of just makes everything go hand in hand. It's a very challenging game, and that's something I appreciate as somebody who wants more of a challenge in Zelda. I played the Tunic demo, and that seems to be like it's going to be challenging as well, especially with that end boss fight. And yeah, it's been a good time to see indie games kind of tackle that Zelda formula. I played It'll Do last year finally, and that was a fun little 3-hour game that's meant for speed running for those who are into the puzzle solving aspect of Zelda.
Listen, mellow. It's been great, man. The melodic punk. I told him after this, moving forward, I'm gonna call him Mellow. I like the name. It's fitting. Listen, man, we gotta connect more often. I would love to have you come back on the channel, man, and it's kind of rap with us, man, and talk some video games. Again, I didn't realize how many mutuals we had. So if you guys are watching this, please go check out the melodic punk. Everything about this, man. I'm gonna scour the internet. I'm gonna scour it. Everything about this man will be in the comment section. I'm sorry, in the description down below. If you're watching on lv1gaming.com, the links will be down below this video for you guys to check him out on Twitch, YouTube, wherever we can find, wherever I can unearth anything about melodic punk, that will be in the description down below. You guys have been amazing. Once again, get all your game news from lv1gaming.com. Mello, thank you again for rocking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I am happy to have known you today, brother.
Thank you so much for having me on. This community has been very fantastic to me. Our mutuals are obviously our mutuals for a reason. They're fantastic people, and I'm very thankful to have them. But I've already said where you can find me at the beginning, so just hopefully you remember or go rewind. And thank you so much for having me on at Level 1 Gaming.
Hey, man, you guys have a wonderful day. Get all your gaming news from lv1gamer.com, and we're out.